FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
If it's such a panacea of progress, if women could help solve all these problems, why haven't we been able to make more progress? I think we've made tremendous progress in some ways. But in other ways, you know, we're 16% of the United States Senate, 16% of the House, for example, very small numbers in terms of CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. Why is it? What are the obstacles that still hold women back? And there are a number. I think some of them are external and some of them are internal. The external obstacles, I think, are like things such as women, I think, are still held to a different standard than men. I think it's still harder for women's accomplishments to get as much, to be taken as seriously and to be given as much credit as the same things that men accomplish. We see that over and over again in these studies that show, for example, women used to make up really small numbers of major orchestras in the United States and around the world. And about 20 years ago, musicians' unions started demanding that auditions for orchestras happen behind screens because they thought there was a lot of bias that came into selecting. You know, people hear with their eyes as well as their ears. Once musicians started auditioning behind screens, the number of women in major orchestras increased fivefold. Fivefold. Similarly, there have been a lot of studies that look at blind resumes, where they gave, for example, there was one that showed that they took a department in a university, and they gave the professors, both men and women, resumes of, would you want to hire this person into your department? And so they took the exact same resume, put a man's name on it in one group and a woman's name on it in the other group, and both men and women were substantially more likely to say the male name was more qualified and they were more likely to be hired than the female name, just on the basis of who they thought had made those accomplishments. I think I see it every day in this presidential campaign. Maybe not every day, every other day. I think Hillary Clinton has had to meet a different threshold to prove that she's qualified to be commander-in-chief. I think that a woman, look, I publicly haven't taken a position on this campaign, although I'll confess I found myself more compelled by the Clinton campaign than I ever thought I would. I see things that happen to her, and I'm beside myself some days, and I've taken it very personally. But I would be very happy with either candidate. I think Barack Obama is totally qualified to be president. That said, I don't think a woman with his resume would have gotten out of the starting blocks. If a woman came and said, oh, I've been in the state legislature for 8 years and in the United States Senate for 2, I want to be president, people would have gone, ha, 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 ha. No, really, what do you want to do? And instead, Senator Obama has proved that somebody with those credentials can really be a successful candidate, but it had to be a he. And I think Senator Clinton, on the other hand, has a pretty substantial, a very substantial resume, in my opinion, but she spent the last year running a campaign based on experience and ready on day one. And I think when people have criticized that campaign and said, why did she base her campaign so much on experience? In some ways because she had to. She had to prove, she had to underscore, she had to make sure people were comfortable with her as commander-in-chief. Now, I certainly don't argue that all of her problems are gender-related, not by a long shot, but I do think some of them are gender-related. Another example, if she had said, I will negotiate with the leaders of Iran, North Korea, and Cuba without preconditions, I think it would have been a firestorm. Senator Obama has said that. It's a reasonable position to take in a lot of people's view. He's gotten a little bit of flack for it, but not a lot. I think it would have been a big, huge scandal if Hillary Clinton had said it. It would have been, oh, you see why we can't have women? They're going to give away the store on the first day.